supporting all the medtech startups to get the approval for the manufacturing license as per the Indian Medical Device Rule 2017 version. So there is a misconceptions among the manufacturers right now that since if their medical devices is not notified, so there is no requirement to get the medical device manufacturing license. This is one of the big misconceptions among the startups also and among the other medical device manufacturers of India. There are second misconceptions among the manufacturers that they don't need ISO 13485 to 16 certifications for their company. So basically, these are the two misconceptions right now which I have encountered or when we have discussed with many of the medical device startups across India. So let's go ahead and see that how this misconceptions is not valid from April 1st, 2020 onwards. So you all know that the Indian Medical Device Rule first came out on 31st of January 2017. The CDSCO, which is governing all the medical device requirement right now, they have officially published one gazette notifications. The notification number is GSR 78, dated 31st Jan, stating that they have notified certain medical devices that need to be get manufacturing license. That notification is further amended on 16th of October 2019, and they have further enlisted around 300 devices which is required to get a medical device manufacturing license from the CDSCO. But after these two notifications were released in 31st Jan 2017 and 16th of October 2019, they have come out with one new notification on 11th of February 2020. On 11th February 2020, they have released two notifications. One notification of SO 648, it talks about the medical device definition. And GSR 102, it talks about the how to register your medical devices and what are the time frame to register your medical devices, irrespective whether it is a notified or it is a non-notified. So you all know that the CDSCO, they have not released any medical device definition in the past. So it was not clear to the medical device manufacturers that how to classify, how to define their devices which they are developing right now. But since the gadget notification which is released on 11 February, it's clearly defined the definition of medical devices. So now we look into it, what is the definition of medical devices as per the gadget notification which is released on 11th of February 2020. So all devices including an instrument, apparatus, appliance, implant, material, or article which used alone or in combination, including a software or an accessory intended by its manufacturers to be used specifically for human beings or animal, which does not achieve the primary intended action in or human body or animals by any by pharmacological or immunological or metabolical means, they can be classified as a medical devices. So if your devices is used for diagnosis, prevention, monitoring, treatment, or alleviation of any disease or disorder, then you can classify it as a medical device. Further, if your medical device is used for diagnosis, monitoring, treatment, or alleviation or assistance for any injury or disability, then you can also say that the product which you are developing is a medical devices. If your device is used in any investigation, replacement or modification, or support of any anatomy or a physiological process, then also you can say that your device is a medical devices. If your product is help in supporting or sustaining life, then also it is classified as a medical devices. If they use in disinfection of medical devices, can also be used our term as a medical devices. Or if it is used in control of conceptions, can also be classified as a medical devices. So this is the basic definition of the medical devices, which any of the medical device startup which they are developing any of the product, they have to see that the product which they are developing, whether it is falling under the definition of the medical device or not. If it is falling under the definition of medical devices, so how it is falling into it. So you have to have a clear understanding about your device with respect to the definition of the medical devices. Now, there's one more important definition which is applicable to the all startup which is going to apply for the manufacturing license. It is loan license. Since many of the startup, they don't have their own manufacturing facility, and they don't have their own manufacturing facility, so they are rely on some other manufacturers facility to get their medical device manufactured. So in that terms we call it a loan license. So you had to apply under the terms called loan license, so that your company can get the loan license, manufacturing license to manufacture the devices. So now what is the definition of loan license? Loan license means a license issued for manufacturing of medical devices by the state licensing authority or a central licensing authority, as the case may be, to a person who intend to utilize the manufacturing site of other licensee for manufacturing the same medical devices as manufactured by the licensee at that site. So you are just taking their manufacturing site as a loan, so that you can also manufacture the devices which you are intent to. And this is one of the terms which is applicable to most of the medical device startups who are intent to initiate the process of manufacturing license with the help of Sugam portal. Now the classification of medical devices. So the medical devices are classified based on the risk based right now. So the CDSCO, they have done the classification of class A, class B, class C and D. Class A will be a low risk medical devices. Class B will be a low moderate risk medical devices. Class C will be the moderate to high risk medical devices, and class D will be the higher risk medical devices. So you have to classify your medical devices depending upon the class of the devices it is. Either it's class B, A, B, C or D. So how the process will go? Suppose you are manufacturing a device for trauma, for the head trauma screening device. So the first thing is that you have to have a proper intended use of your device, or how your device is going to work on at the clinical setting. You should know whether it will be a transient use, short term or long term. You should know that your device is how it's going to be used by the clinicians. So first thing is that the complete intended use and performance of the device should be known by the startup manufacturing company.
Yeah, I think the slideshow mode has stopped. So can you put it on a slideshow so that it can?
Okay, fine. Okay. Now it's showing. Okay.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you. Sorry for interruption. Yeah.
Okay, fine. So you had to classify your medical devices under these classes: class A, B, C, and D. Right. So how to classify your medical devices? So first thing you have to check with respect to your devices is about the duration of use. So what do you mean by the duration of use? So duration of use is further classified into a three. It's a transient use device, a short-term device, or the long-term device. So you had to classify your devices. Your device is used intended for the continuous use for less than 60 minutes. If it is used for less than 60 minutes, then you can say that your devices is a transient use medical devices. Suppose your devices is used for a continuous use for not more than 30 days. So you can say that your devices is a short-term use device. And if it is used for continuous for more than 30 days, your device, then it is a long-term device. So after you have defined your medical devices with its intended use, so the second thing which you have to do is you have to define its duration of use, either 60 days, between 24 to 30 days, or more than 30 days. After you have done the classification of your device as per the duration, now the next thing is about the device type. So you have to define that whether the device which you are intend to manufacture or you intend to have a proof of concept is falling under which category of type, whether it is an invasive device, whether it is a body orified device, whether it is surgically invasive device, or it's an implantable device. So I will start with the invasive device, a device which is in whole or in part penetrate inside the body either through a body orifice or through the surface of the body. You can classify them as an invasive device. We will see the example and case study at the end of the classification. I have taken around 4 to 5 case studies, so we can able to show you how to further classify. And if your device is used through the natural orifice, like with the help of natural artificial opening or such as stroma, or with the help of what we call it with the eye, or with the help of natural orifice, then you can say that your product is used in the body orifice. So the classification rule will change accordingly. Suppose your device is used as surgically invasive, it means an invasive device which penetrates inside the body with the help of any surgical operations. So then you can say it is a surgically invasive device. If an implantable device is which is totally introduced into the human body or to the base epithelial surface or the surface of the eye, you can say that it's an implantable device. Further, you can say that whether it's an active medical devices or active therapeutic devices. An active medical devices is any medical devices which is operate with the help of any electrical source or external power. You can say that that product which you are developing or device is an active medical devices. Now here in active medical devices, earlier the software which is used in the medical devices was not considered as an active medical device or doesn't fall under the classification of medical devices. But from now onwards, any software or any standalone softwares which are used in active medical devices, or they are not in the used in with the connection with the medical devices, can be classified as a medical devices. We call it a software as a medical devices. Some of the example of the standalone software are, you might be knowing, there are different type of artificial intelligence software which are used in the which is used for the diagnosis of COVID therapy, like for the COVID, for the respiratory diseases is coming up right now in the market, which is used artificial intelligence. So it's all with the help of the software are using. So they are the medical devices as per the definition released by the government. Further to that, active therapeutic devices. Any active medical devices which used alone or in combination with other medical devices to support, modify or replace or restore biological function or structures with a view of treatment or alleviations or injury or handicap, they can be classified as an active therapeutic devices. Further, active device for diagnosis. Any active medical devices which is used alone or in combination with other medical devices to supply information for detecting, diagnosis, monitoring or treating physiological conditions, state of health, illness or congenital deformities can be classified as an active device for diagnosis. So many of the startups right now, they are working in the field of active device for diagnosis. Like for example, for the neonatal screening devices, for the heart rate, for the heartbeat, or what we call it ECG monitoring devices, and all the fit all the devices which are used in the used for the treating the physiological or monitoring of the physiological condition, all are classified under the active device for diagnosis. Now further, you can classify your devices whether it is used in the central circulatory system or in the central nervous system. This is the very important thing to consider to the starters, because the risk classification of the devices will become increased. If your devices is used in the central circulatory system or central nervous system, your devices will then classified into a class C or class D, depending upon its nature of invasiveness. So you have to also see whether your product is come in contact with either the central circulatory system or central nervous system. So till now we have done that. You have to classify with respect to the duration of your devices. Once you have done the proper classification with respect to duration of your devices, then you have to see with the type of devices which you are manufacturing, this type of definition. You have to read the definition, and you have to apply the definitions onto your devices which you are developing. So now there are different implementing rules which is released by the government. You can find this implementing rule in the first schedule of the MDR GSR 78. This implementing rules is given on page number 167 of the MDR requirements. So after you have done all your classification of your devices with respect to the duration of use and the type of devices which you are manufacturing, then you have to apply both this definition into this implementing rules. So now you have to see whether your devices is non-invasive medical devices which come in contact with the injured skin. It's a non-invasive medical devices for channeling or storing of a substance, or is for modifying composition of substance, or other non-invasive medical devices. So accordingly, you have to classify whether it's falling under into a class A, B, C, or D. So you have to see all these implementing rules. There are total 16 implementing rules given by the MDR gadget notifications. You have to correctly apply to this rule, and then you have to classify whether it is falling under into a class A, B, C, or D. So if we go further into the details, this implementing rule will talk about both the invasive medical devices, invasive devices with the help of body orifice, whether it's a transient use devices or short-term use devices or long-term use devices, or which are used in connection with active medical devices. And also surgical invasive devices, again, you have to see depending upon the duration of your devices, whether it's a transient use, short-term use, or long-term use. This rule will also help you to classify the active therapeutic devices and diagnostic devices. And there are the various devices which incorporate the medicinal product into the devices. Like we call it drug-eluting stents, which include the drugs into that stents. So you can classify that type of devices into the devices which incorporate the medicinal products. There are various medical devices which use animal or human cells or tissues to manufacture it. So there are different implementing rules to classify the devices. There are also different implementing rules for the disinfectants and the contraceptive devices which are manufactured by the startups right now. So I will take the different case studies right now. So head trauma screening device. So how you can do a classification of head trauma screening device. So as per what I have just briefed you about, you have to first define its intended use. So the intended use of the head trauma screening device is to screen on site to the patients the level of head injury is taken at the time of accident, whether there is any blockage on the head has taken or not, so that the accumulation of blood will going to happen. So these devices will support the hospital and the paramedical staff to on the spot screening of the head trauma if any patient is coming for the coming from the accident after meeting the accident. So if we see the intended, now we will start the intended duration of this head trauma screening device. So now the devices is this head trauma screening devices is a transient use devices because it is not it is used for the continuous use for less than 60 minutes. So now we can say that this head trauma screening devices is a transient use device. So now our first goal of classifying your devices get over. Now we say that our device is a transient use device. Now we have to see that from all these definitions where the head trauma screening device will fall, whether it's an invasive devices, whether it's a body modified device, whether it's a surgically invasive device or implantable devices or active medical devices or active therapeutic device or active device for diagnosis, central circulatory system or central nervous system. So from all these definitions which we have seen, we can say that our device, head trauma screening device, can be classified as a type of active device for diagnosis. Why we have classified them into the active device for diagnosis? Reason being, it's help the paramedical staff in detecting. You can just see the definition. Any device which helps in detecting, diagnosis, monitoring, or treating physiological conditions. So here, the head trauma screening devices help in first thing is detecting of the head trauma after the patient is met with the an severe accident. It also help in diagnosis. How is helping in diagnosis? It means that what level of internal head injury is happening to the patient. It can also help in diagnosis also. Further, it's also helping monitoring what level of head injury is happened to the patient. It's help in also the monitoring of the patient of the head level of injury. So we can say that the head trauma screening devices is a transient use device and active devices for diagnosis. Now I will be showing you the screen of how we can classify whether it's falling under a class A, class B, class C or class D device.
Yeah, hi, Mrs. Ram. And
Yeah.
in the meantime, we can go for the Q&A in right now. If we
Yeah, we can go with the Q&A once the this case study will get over. So we'll
okay
ask
after.
all the participants if they have or if they want to have any devices in their mind, so that we can also classify on the spot the devices which they are manufacturing.
Okay, perfect, sure.
So currently you are seeing this uh, document. We call it how to classify it. I will just share you. Now you can just see over here. As per the first schedule of the MBR requirement, part 1, they have given the parameters to classify the medical devices and in vitro diagnostic medical devices. So here right now we are talking about the head trauma screening devices, which we have classified as a transient use device and a active diagnostic device. So now how we can say that whether it is a class A device, class B, class C and class D. Now here we'll go and just see it. So definitely it's a non-invasive medical device which comes in contact with the injured skin. So you have to see what is going to get applicable to your device. So right now, non-invasive device is not going to get applicable because our product is a active diagnostic devices. So you can just go downside and you can see that active diagnostic medical devices. Here you can see the on point number 13, you can see all the devices which are classified as an active diagnostic medical devices. You can see over here. Now, we have seen that this devices is used for the monitoring diagnosis purpose, right? So here you can apply over here. Uh, and active diagnostic medical devices shall be assigned to if it's intended to use solely to eliminate a patient's body. So this is not going to get applicable to you. And active diagnostic medical devices referred to in class A shall be classified as class C if it is specifically for the monitoring of vital physiological parameters where the nature of any variation in such could result in immediate danger to the patient. So here we can say that if the device, if our head trauma screening devices is used for the monitoring of the very important physiological parameter, so we can say that our product is classified into a class C device because it's help in monitoring of vital physiological condition. So from this, we can say that from the sub point 13 of classification rule, active diagnostic medical devices, you can say that the head trauma screening devices is a class C device. Now we are taking the second example of chitosan surgical dressings. So what is chitosan surgical dressings? Chitosan surgical dressing is used mainly to stop the bleeding, both the acute bleeding and also the chronic bleeding. So, and the chitosan is made from the animal tissues. So here we know that here we can define that the chitosan surgical dressing is used for stop the bleeding of the patients, and the device is made from the animal tissues. So now again we will start from the its duration of use, from where the device will going to get used, whether it will be used for the transient use devices or the short term or long term. So definitely the device chitosan can be used both for the short term use or for the transient use also. So wherever the device has a multiple duration of use, we always take the highest duration when we are going to classify the device. So here we can say that the device, the chitosan surgical dressings, is a short-term use device which is not going to be used more than 30 days. Once you have done the classification as per the intended durations, now again further we can go with the type of device. So here is so these are not going to get applicable. So the device which will going to get applicable, it will be it will be applicable to be the either the surgically invasive device will be get applicable, because many of the devices will this chitosan surgical dressings can be used in when after getting the operations. So to stop the acute bleeding when there's an surgeries have happened to the patients. So now again we are using these implementing rules. So I have already discussed that any medical devices which incorporate the animal or human cells or tissues, they can classify them into a higher risk devices. So now if we see the guardian document, I will be again sharing the screen. So here you can see the screen. You can just see that point number 14, medical device incorporating animal or human cells or tissues. So any devices which are using the or incorporating animal cells on humans, they are classified as a higher risk devices. They are always fall under into a class D devices. It means they are of higher risk nature, and they had to apply to the central licensing authority. It means that a joint inspection will be carried out by both the state government and the central government also. I will be taking the third example. So the third example is intraocular lenses. So as we have discussed, you have to first define its intended use. So intraocular lens is used to get implanted into the human eyes when there is an eye cataract surgeries is happen, right? So it's depending upon the duration of use, it's a long-term use because it get permanently implanted on the human eye. So its duration of use is more than 30 days. So as per the duration of use, is a long-term device. Now further, if we go to the type of device, we can say that it's an implantable device. Why we are telling us an implantable device? You have to again go and you have to check your devices with respect to the type of definition. It means that implantable devices which is totally introduced into the human body. So here the intraocular lenses is totally introduced into the human body, and you cannot able to remove once you have got implanted over there. So that's why we are telling that the device is a permanent implantable devices. You can just check the second point, any device which is intended to replace an epithelial surface or surface of the eye. So the intraocular lenses also is going to replace an epithelial surface of the device. So this is the second reason why we are classifying and why we are telling that the intraocular lenses can be classified or can be a implantable device. So after you have done the duration is we know that it is a permanent long-term device and implantable devices. Here we are again if we have to see whether it's falling under class A, B, C or D. We are again going. I will be again sharing you this classification rule, and you can able to know that why we are classifying them into a class C device. So you have to just see that. So here you can see here this on point number 9, implantable medical devices and surgically invasive medical devices for long-term use. We know that the intraocular lenses is a long-term use device, and we have already said that it's an implantable devices. So now we can say whether it is a class A, B, C or D. Now we can say that a long-term use medical devices shall be assigned to class B if intended to place into any tooth. So of course intraocular lenses is not going to be placed on tooth, so it's not a class B device. A long-term use medical device shall be assigned to class D if it is intended to be used in the central circulatory system. So of course the device is not used in central circulatory system. Here I have missed any implantable medical devices or surgically invasive medical device intended for long-term use shall be classified to class C device. So here we can say that our device, intraocular lenses, is a class C devices because other point like point number B, point number C, and point number D is not going to get applicable to the intraocular lens because the intraocular lens is not going to get implantable into a tooth. So that's why the point number B is not applicable. Point number C is also not going to get applicable because the device is not going to get implantable in the central circulatory system or central nervous system. So that's why we can now say that our product is a class C medical device. So this is the correct way of classifying your medical devices. First, you have to see the duration, the type of devices, and the intended use, the duration of use, the type of device, then you can say and you can classify with the help of this document whether it is falling under into a class A, B, C, or D. I will be taking another case study, which will be the last case study. Uh, this case study is for the ECG portable ECG monitoring device. So you might be knowing that there are the various startups right now who is right now manufacturing the portable ECG monitoring machines. So how they had to classify this portable ECG monitoring machine? Are they into a class A device or B or C or D? So let's see what is the portable ECG machine can be classified into it. So now we can say that depending upon the intended use, it's a transient use device because the portable ECG machine cannot be used more than 60 minutes. So we can say it's a transient use device. And about the type of device, it's not an invasive, body modifier, or surgically invasive or implantable device. Nor it is in active, it is in active medical devices, but it is not an active therapeutic device. Here we can say it's an active device for diagnosis. Why we are telling that the portable ECG monitoring devices is an active device for diagnosis because it is help in detecting, diagnosis, monitoring, or treating physiological conditions, state of health, illness, or congenital deformities. So just not only the portable ECG monitoring machines, there are the various startups which are working on the new network screening devices. They are also falling under under the type of active device for diagnosis. So let's see how we can classify them into A, B, C, or D. So here you can say the active device, active diagnostic medical device. So we know that our device is going to be used for the diagnostic of the very important vital physiological parameters. So here you can see the subpart C of point number 13. And active diagnostic medical devices referred to in class A shall be assigned to class C if it is intended for the monitoring of vital physiological parameters where the nature of any variation is such that it could result in immediate danger to the patient, such as any variation in cardiac performance, respiratory, or activity of central nervous system. So this portable ECG machine is very important in collecting the vital physiological condition of the heart. So any variation in cardiac performance with the help of their devices can lead to a very fatal conditions to the patients. So that's why we can classify them into a class C medical devices. So here I have taken the 4 case studies to classify the medical devices accordingly to the gadget notification released by the government. So the takeaway from this right now is that you have to first define your medical devices. After you have to define its intended use correctly. The second step is to define its duration of use. The third step is to define the type of device it is. Once you know all these 3 questions of your device, then only you can correctly able to classify your devices into a class A, B, C, and D. Now we will start the question answers round. So if any other participants have any questions, so they can let us know. I will answer the questions with respect to classification of devices, how to accurately define your devices. We can start from here.
Yes, the participants, you can now, share your questions in the chat box, or you can raise your hands and we can unmute you and you can ask your question. There is one question in the chat box. So KRL Swami asks, how would we classify a wearable for monitoring?
Yeah, for the variable for the monitoring, for the monitoring variable monitoring devices, if it is used for the collection of vital physiological conditions like the heartbeat, or so you have to first define the intended use. So if it is used for the monitoring of the vital physiological conditions, so again you can say that it is used for the active diagnostic device. So I have already classified the ECG device, right? Portable ECG device. So it is used for the active diagnostic device. So all the variables which is used for the monitoring collection of any vital physiological parameters can be classified them as active diagnostic devices.
Right. Next question we have from Mr. Jayesh. How you classify insulin pens and its parts inside?
So the insulin pens, because it is used for the introduction of any the drugs to the patient. So let's initiate how we can classify the insulin pen. I will just share the screen and we'll classify the insulin pen to Mr. JS. So here we can say the intended use of the insulin pen will going to be a transient use device. It will, because the insulin pen not going to be used for more than continuous use for more than 60 minutes, right? Now the second thing is about the type of devices, whether it's an invasive device or it's body modified device or surgically invasive device. So or it's implantable or whether it's a diagnostic or an active therapeutic device. So invasive device, a device which is in whole or a part penetrate inside the body, either through the body orifice or through the surface of the body. So here the insulin pen will not penetrate inside the body with the help of body orifice, but here definitely it will be penetrate through the surface of the body because it's a insulin pen and it has a very sharp needle over there, right? If it's a since it's a needle and it's going to be penetrate inside the body with the help of the surface of the body, you can say that it's an invasive device. So now further we can classify whether it's in a class A, B, C or D, your insulin pen. So here you can say that invasive with respect to body orifice, if it's used, but it's not through the body orifice. So here you can say that any invasive devices with the help of transient use. Point number 5, with the help of body orifice. Can you classify them into classify? Here they have not done any further classification of whether it's an invasive device with the help of body orifice or with the help of non-orifice. So we had to consider with the help of body orifice, and we had to classify the insulin pen if it is used for the transient use into class A medical devices.
Okay, right. So I hope that answers your question, Mr. Jayesh. And now we have question from Mr. Sahu. Will the manufacturing of mask also need manufacturing license?
For the manufacturing of surgical masks, right now ICMR they don't need right now to get the manufacturing license right now. But yeah, of course, if you are a long term, you are looking to enter into the manufacturing of surgical or manufacturing of surgical masks, you had to get a manufacturing license from the CDSCO. You have to get it classified and you have to get the license from the government.
Okay. And we have next question from Mr. Ganga. Which authority gives approval under this rule?
It's a CDSCO. So I will be taking the next chapter to whom to apply and how to apply. You have to go to the CDSCO and you have to first apply to the Sugam portal. And through the Sugam portal, you have to submit the entire documents, and through them you have to get the manufacturing license.
Okay. And now we have next question from Mr. Prathamesh. Are assisted living devices like knee braces, wheelchairs, walkers considered medical devices? If yes, how could we go about classifying them?
Yeah, it's medical devices as per the definition. If you can see the definition of medical devices, and it's non-invasive medical devices. So you can classify them into a class A medical device.
Sure. And now we have question from Ms. Jayashree. Which class does the remote monitoring variable come under?
Which device remote monitoring variable come under? If it is used for the classification of vital physiological conditions, which I have discussed, it will be coming under class 3 device.
Okay, sure. And now we have question from Mr. Sreya Chen. What is the classification for phytochemical impregnated surgical dressings? Also, how can we get NOC if significantly similar products are available?
No, now you will not go. You will get the NOC. No origin certificate is not going to get applicable for phytochemical impregnated surgical dressings. How the phytochemical is playing a role? It is going to be help in. Is it a drug or how it is? If it's a drug device combinations, then it's falling under into class C device.
Sure.
Phytochemical impregnated surgical dressing is a class 3 device because it's a combination of drug device.
Right. Okay. And now we have a question from Mr. Sahu. What are the requirements from QMS certification and manufacturing license point of view for the medical device child part manufacturer?
Medical device child part manufacturers.
So yeah.
For the QMS certifications, you have to go for the ISO 13485 implementation. There are different clauses. There are total 8 clauses in QMS which you have to implement into your system when you are going for the manufacturing license. And for the child part manufacturer, there are different type of child part. You have to let me know that what type of child part it is, whether it's an invasive, non-invasive, where it is going to be used. So then you have to classify accordingly, and then you have to go for the Sugam portal to get the manufacturing license. You have to first define it appropriately because there are different type of child part which will be.
Sure. So we have question from Mr. Suresh. So it's a bit long, so I can just summarize. So they want to know the classification for surface EMG wearable device and
what is EMG?
EMG and now okay. So I think they wanted to say like ECG kind.
So if it's like ECG only, so it's the class C device.
Otherwise, I'll just unmute you, Mr. Suresh, if you can ask your question. Mr. Suresh? Hello? Mr. Suresh? Okay, so anyways, like it will be...
So if it is similar to and help in vital physiological parameters, then it's a class C devices as per the active therapeutic, as per the active diagnostic classification we can go.
Okay, and now we have a question from Ova Rani. So she wants to know non-invasive diagnosis device capturing patients' eye image by emitting white light falls under class A or B.
Non-invasive diagnostic, it will be under the class A because it will be non-invasive.
Okay. And it's a question from Ramya. What is the duration of use of greater than 60 minutes but less than continuous 30 days use? For example, dialysis machine.
So here you can say that the duration of use is divided into three parts: transient use, short term, and long term. So if it's between 60 to 30 days, so you can say that it's a short term use device.
Okay. Device.
Or like that dialysis machine is, but dialysis machine is not going to be yeah, it will be a short term device. It will be a short term device.
Okay. We have question from Ganga. Which other rules need to be followed for setting up manufacturing facilities to manufacturing these devices?
So you have to see the requirement first, the requirement of your entry requirements. They have given the requirement that what are the, depending upon the devices which you are manufacturing, you have to see that whether you need a clean room requirement or you don't need the clean room requirement. So this is the first checklist we have to see. Depending upon then only you have to do a plan layout your manufacturing facility with the respective device which you are going to manufacture for it. So the main rule with the, along with this rule, you have to see. I will be speaking ahead on the site master file requirements, which is very important when any company will going to manufacture the facility. They have to have a site master file ready with them. So I will have more real discussion about the manufacturing facility on the later part of this section.
Okay. So we have question from Mr. Mani Arvind. If we are bringing advanced replacement stitches, how can we start for getting clearance for that?
Advanced replacement for stitches. What is the replacement of stitches? It's like the zip they are talking about, because I know there's a few of the startups which are working on the zip. So they are replacing the sutures with the help of zip. If it is a manufacturing of a zip, then it will be a class C device.
Okay. So we have question from Vikram Kumar Behra. How can the doctor detect the problem in patients during emitting light surgical operations? So basically, I think this is not under the scope
Yeah,
of
right. Yeah.
this webinar. We can move on to the next question.
So yeah, electromyogram. Here
Yes,
the
electromyogram.
to this scheme. So yeah, it will be a class C devices coming under the active therapy, active diagnostic device, because it's a very important physiological parameter.
Okay, so I hope it answers you your question, Mr. Suresh. And we have next question from Levelin. We have developed a non-invasive battery powered surface mechanomyogram displacement for muscle on skin surface. And the device is rehabilitation device and it's attached like a kneecap over normal skin. What would be the classification for this device?
Because it's an active device, but not an diagnostic device. So you have to see the classification of active medical devices. So you can say it will be falling under into a class B device.
Okay, class B. And I think we are done with the questions here in the chat box. And there were some raised hands. So if anyone has any other questions, so you can raise hands now and we can unmute you. Otherwise, we can continue the session.
One more question from Mr. Surim. Medical app is is a software as a medical device. So here I talk about it. All the softwares is now henceforth be considered as a medical devices also. So all the softwares either used alone or with the medical devices can be classified as a medical device.
Right.
It will be a class B. All the software will be either class A or B depending upon its use, depending upon the physiological parameter, or depending on the monitoring which they are using it.
Right. Okay. So I think yes, we have covered most of the questions so far now. And yeah, I think Mr. Zad, we can continue with the session or
Okay.
the slides. Yeah.
Okay. So now once you have done all the classification of your device, you know that your device is falling under class A, B, C, and D. Now, the next requirement is that you have to apply for the manufacturing license. So, what are the prerequisite requirements? The first requirement is that you should have a Sugam portal login credentials, right? The second thing is that you should know and should have a basic understanding of the different type of MD form which is going to get applicable to you. And the second thing is that you should have an ISO 13485/16 certificate from an accredited notified body. So these are the three prerequisite requirements to all the startups which are right now looking to get a manufacturing license from the CDSCO. First thing is Sugam portal login credentials, having a basic understanding of the different MD forms. Then,
yeah, Mr. Siddharth, sorry to interrupt. If you can put the presentation on slideshow mode. So,
okay, it's not in the slide. Okay, I just okay, fine.
so there's a query from Ganga. So to zoom the screen. So
So you should have a login credentials, basic understanding of the MD form, and a ISO 13485 certificate from an accredited notified body. A non-accredited notified body certificate will not be liable. The CDSCO will straightforward reject your application if it is not from an accredited notified body. So different medical device form. If your product in an existing device and it's not a novel devices, and if it's a predictable to the device which you are manufacturing, then for class A and B manufacturing license you can apply in MD form 3 and you will get the permission in MD form 5. Suppose, and we have seen that many of the startups, they don't have a manufacturing facility, but still they have to apply for the manufacturing license. So for them, they have to apply with the help of what we call as a loan license. So you have to apply under the form called MD Form 4 to get the manufacturing license under the loan license in the form MD 6. Similar, if the devices is falling under class C and D, they have to apply in the manufacturing license form MD 7 and loan license in the MD form number 8. This form is only to those devices whose predicate device is available in the Indian market. Now, for all the new devices whose predicate devices is not available in India, so to all the startups, first thing is you have to go for the clinical investigation permission in the form number MD22. Before the clinical investigation permission, you had to apply for the test license. So you have to apply for a test license in the application MD form number 16. After you get the permission in MD 7, you have to prepare certain documents with respect to the clinical investigation or the clinical trial which you are going to do. We are taking an entire 90-minute session on how to go for the clinical investigation to the medical devices with the startup they are developing in the next week right now. And we will be speaking more in detail about what are the documentation requirements to get the clinical investigation permission from the CDSCO. And once you have applied and you have received the test license, you have successfully conducted the clinical investigation, now you have to apply for the manufacturing license under the form number MD26. And you will be getting the permission in MD number 27. Now, what are the fees to apply to the manufacturing license? If you are manufacturing a class A or B, you have to pay a challan of rupees 5,000 rupees to the CDSCO. If you are manufacturing a class C or D devices, if it's a fee of 50,000 rupees, you have to pay to them. For test license application, you have to have a challan of rupees 500 rupees. If you want to get a permission for a pilot clinical investigation, you have to pay approximately 1 lakh rupees for it. Also, to conduct a pivotal clinical studies, you have to pay 1 lakh rupees. if you want to conduct a clinical performance, you have to pay around 25,000 rupees to the CDSCO, Clinical Trial Department. Clinical performance is applicable to only the in vitro medical devices startups. It is not applicable to the medical devices startups companies. So once you have a basic understanding about the what type of forms it will be get applicable to you, so the next thing is that you have to prepare the application. So to prepare the applications, such few of the important documents which is very important to you is the you have to implement the quality management system for medical devices and in vitro diagnostic medical devices as per the schedule 5th of the MDR requirement. What is the schedule 5th? Schedule 5th is nothing but ISO 13485. So it means that you have to implement the ISO 13485 2016 version of quality management system into your manufacturing facility. So and you have to get audited your facility with the help of any notified agencies, and they will come and they will audit and they will issue the ISO 13485 certificate. And we will be discussing more in depth about the what are the requirements of ISO 13485 certification next week. Again, we are holding a one session to have a in-depth understanding about the how to go for the 13485 certifications. The other requirement is Appendix 1 of the requirement of MDR state about the site or plant master file. So I have here received one question that what should we consider when we are going to manufacturing or when we are constructing the manufacturing plant. So over here, the requirement is enlisted into a site or plant master file. You have to prepare a very much detailed site or plant master file, and I will be covering in that in next slide what will be going to be the content of your site or plant master file. After that, you have to prepare a device master file with respect to device which you are going to manufacture. This device master file you have to upload to the SOGAM portal. And if you are manufacturing the in vitro diagnostic medical devices, then you have to follow the requirement of Appendix 3. Appendix 3, they have given a detailed requirement of what should you have to include into the device master file requirements. Now here is the brief requirements. I have not enlisted the entire details. Here only is the brief requirements about the site master file. You have to write about the brief information of the site, including the name and address, what all manufacturing activity you are going to do at the site, what are you have to prepare an in-depth organization chart with its detailed role and responsibilities of the person involved into it, the layout of the premises with the indicator of scale. You have to have a layout of the premises with where you are going to manufacturing, what are the class of the different area. You have to demarcate over there. You have to demarcate whether it's a class 10,000, class 1 lakh, depending upon the device which you are manufacturing. Many of the medical devices, they might not need the clean requirement. They only need a well-ventilated area. So that all you have to define in the plan layout. What are the incoming raw material inspection, how you are going to do it, or what are the constraint area, what are the inspection area you are doing it, how the incoming process, finished product inspection, how you are doing the finished goods store, how you are doing the dispatch of your devices. All the detail you have to well plan and lay out in your plan layout which you are going to do it. And once you have a plan layout ready, you have to get it approved from the local FDA. Suppose you are based out in Mumbai. So the local FDA office, you have to submit that plan layout to the local FDA authority, and the local FDA authority will review your plan layout of your manufacturing facility, and they will going to give you the permission. And only after having a stamp, sign and seal from the local FDA, then only you can commence the manufacturing or construction of your manufacturing facility. You have to also define the major production or quality control, or if you are having a in-house laboratories or you are going to outsource into it. What are the brief description about the flow sheets, important parameters? You have to define SOPs, procedure you have to define over there. You have to also define what are the arrangement for handling of the starting of the material, packaging, bulk and finished product over there. So these are the what are the internal audit or MRM, management review meeting procedures you are going to get apply at a time at the site. All these are different basic details which you have to define in the site master file. And this site master file you have to get upload into the Sugam portal. Now, what are the content of device master file, right? You have to prepare a device master file also, right? You have to prepare a device master file, and the master file will get uploaded into the Sugam portal. So, what are the basic content of a device master file? A device master file should contain a basic device descriptions, its intended use, and classification of device. It should also include all the design and development validation data. It will include the risk management report as per the requirement of ISO 14971 requirements, clinical evaluation requirement with the help of literature route. Suppose if it is a novel device and a predicate device is not available in the market, so then you have to initiate a clinical study. Either you have to initiate a pivotal study or a pulse study. Both study you to initiate, and you can submit the data in the clinical evaluation section. You also have to prepare the label and IFU as per the requirement of EN ISO 15223 requirements, and also the requirement of EN 1041 requirements. You have to prepare the essential requirement checklist. A performer of this essential requirement checklist is already provided by the CDSCO, and it is well written in the MBR guidance document. You also have to perform the biocompatibility studies. If it's come in direct contact with the skin, or it's not coming in the skin, you have to classify your device, and you have to conduct the biocompatibility studies as per the requirement of ISO 10993-1 version 2018. If it's an active medical devices, so you also have to do electrical safety testing as per the requirement of EMI, AMC, and applicable safety standard with respect to your products. If it's your devices include the software, or if it's a standalone software, you have to do a software validation also. Software validation as per the requirement of IEC 62304 version 2015. You have to validate your softwares accordingly. You also have to document and prepare and very exhaustive a post-marketing surveillance plan, report, and vigilance system in your ISO system. This is very, very important, very critical to the starters to plan and have a well-documented post-marketing surveillance in your system. You also have to perform the packaging validation of your devices, because you have to send your PAX device to either to a different location in India, or you want to export. So you have to follow the requirement of ISO 16607 Part 1 and Part 2. There are the two versions of this standard which you have to implement into your system. You also have to do the ETO validation if your devices is going to get sterilized. So you have to see in how to sterilize, whether it's a ETO sterilization or it's a gamma sterilization. Accordingly, you have to do the validation of your of your sterilization process. Now, the next important thing is about a stability study. Stability study means about a shelf life, whether your device will be used for 2 years after it gets sterilized, or 3 year timeline, or 4 year or 5 year. So from where you are getting the data, you have to done a study called stability study. And there are two types of stability study. One is the accelerated stability study, and second is the long-term accelerated study. So to all the startups, you you had to perform the accelerated stability study to establish the shelf life of your device which you are manufacturing. So all these devices, for all these documents, you have to prepare and you have to submit on the SUGAM portal. And then accordingly, the audit will be called by the CDSO, and they will do the audit of the facility, both with respect to the requirement of ISO 13485 and with respect to device master file, and accordingly they will recommend your facility to the CDSO for the release of the manufacturing license. This is a basic requirement for the medical devices. Now, what will be the requirement for the IVD? Suppose if you are manufacturer of in vitro diagnostic medical devices, so what will be the requirement of device master file? So again, you have to having a brief description of your devices, intended use, classification. Again, all the validation data with respect to design and development, risk management, performance evaluation. Here, you have to do a performance evaluation. Performance evaluation is similar in terms of clinical evaluation, but in IVD we are using the word performance evaluation. Here also you have to do a pilot and pivotal performance evaluation with the help of the patients. You also have to prepare a label and IFU. Here the important difference between the MP and IVD that here you have to submit the analytical studies, accuracy of measurement studies, report, reproducibility, different analytical specificity data with respect to your device. We have to also submit the metrological traceability of calibrated and controlled metal values, which is going to be get used in your device. Measuring range of the assay which are going to get used, assay cutoff data, and again the post-marketing packaging validation stability data you have to use. We have to submit it when you want to go for the manufacturing license for the in vitro diagnostic devices. So what are the timelines to get the manufacturing license? You all know that for all the devices which are right now notified under the MDR rule, they have to get the manufacturing license. They are mandated to get a manufacturing license from 1st of January 2021. But suppose if your devices is not a notified medical devices, so but as per the Gazette notification which is released on 11th of February 2020, so all the non-notified medical devices, if they are falling under into class A and B, they have to voluntary registrations up to August 2021. So they can voluntarily get registered for all the class A and B devices. They can get a voluntary registrations up to the August 2021. After the August 2021, from the 1st of October, it will become mandatory for all the class A and B manufacturers to get the manufacturing license from the CDSCO. Suppose if you are manufacturing the class C and D devices, so to get the voluntary registration, it is up to the 30 September. It is voluntary to get the license, and after that it becomes compulsory to them to receive the manufacturing license from the CDSCO. Here I am talking about the non-notified medical devices. So if you see the timeline for both the class A, B, C, and D, voluntary certification, voluntary medical device registration is starting from 1st April 2020 to 30 September 2020. they can get voluntary certifications. After that, it become a mandatory to them. We will be starting a live walkthrough to the Sugam portal. I will be sharing you the screen of the Sugam portal, and we will see that how you will going to get register your non-notified medical devices into it. And before we'll initiate a walkthrough to the Sugam portal, any questions to the participants I can able to answer. Gaurav, we will take any answer with respect to how to register the device. And after that, I will start the live walkthrough to the Sugam portal.
Right, sure. So we have questions now. So we can take the question from Level In. So she asked, how would you classify a battery-powered bionic or prosthetic hand that is non-invasive?
Because it is an active device, right? It is using also a battery. It is using a battery also to operate it, right? Although it's a non-invasive, but it's an active devices. So as per the classification rule, if you can see any active medical devices, you can classify either into A and B. So you can say your devices will be falling into a class B device.
Okay. And next question we have from Asif. So he wants to ask, what is the class the partially implanted replaceable device comes under? And our kit contains about 7 other resistive products, which includes bib brush, which are used by patients for cleaning and covering the stoma post implantation. So for packaging, what kind of license they need?
Okay. What is a class a partially implantable? So, what do you mean by partially implantable? You have to define this intended duration.
So,
Whether it is used for the 30 days or more than 30 days or less than 24 hours, you have to define that.
So I have unmuted you, Asif, so you can share.
Yeah, it's for 6 months.
So if it is 6 months, you can say then it's a long-term device. So depending upon the location where it is implantable, it will be
It's in throat, stoma.
It will be in stroma. So it will be a class C device.
Class A. Okay.
Class
Okay.
C, yeah.
And the manufacture in the boxing, sir, in fact, we are making a kit of 7 other devices which is supporting to this particular device.
Okay.
So what kind of a license? I mean, is there a particular license we require to do so? Because we will be applying for a manufacturing license for this particular processes. And rest of the device.
Yeah, so you can apply for the entire kit. You can apply for the entire kit manufacturing license.
Okay. Okay.
There is a provision to get the manufacturing license for the kit also. So you can apply, you can say that all the other 7 products are the accessories. We are using the word accessories. Like you are using here the bib brush, these all are the accessories.
Correct.
The main product is implantable and other are the accessories or accessory products. So it's a kit. You can get the manufacturing license for the kit also.
Oh, great, sir. Thank you.
Okay, I hope that answers your question, Mr. Asif.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. So we have the question from Level In. When you mention accredited notified bodies, accredited by whom? Is there a
so they are accredited by the NABCB plus CDSCO.
Okay.
They should get accreditation. They should have an accreditation certificate from the NABCB. NABCB is the a division under the Quality Control of India, and they have only notified few of the certification agency to issue this type of certificates. So you have to check that the agency which you are going to talk, whether they are having an NABCB approval or not. Once they have an NABCB approval, the second thing is that whether they have a CDSU approval also or not.
So I think it will be helpful if you can just put it these in the chat box, Mr. Siddharth, or on your screen, if that can be done, so that I think it will be.
Yeah. 11.
Okay, great. Great, perfect. And now we have the next question from Sweta, Miss Sweta. So, what is the local FTA? So, she wants to know about.
The local FBA means that every state they have a local FBA. It means that and every office in the state is also there. So all the day-to-day activities, or like for the drugs, for the devices, is controlling from their office only. So suppose you are in Mumbai, you have to see that in Mumbai where is the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration is located over there, and then you have to all the communication with respect to your technical person approval, your GMP approval, your approval with respect to your plan layout. You have to get it from the FDA Bhavan only, because in FDA Bhavan there will be drug inspectors will be there. So you have to contact them, and then you have to get a formal approval from them for all these three activities, like for the technical person approval and plan layout approvals.
Great. We have question from Mr. BRL Swami. Is there a radiation EMI safety checklist as well?
Yeah, for the radiation EMI/MC that you have to, depending upon the devices, there are a different EMI/MC standard will going to get applicable to you. There are different parts, like 60601-2-2, 48, 45. There are different parts. So depending upon the devices which you are manufacturing, you have to get tested from the NABL accredited laboratory.
Okay. And we have question from Mr. Riaz Rafiq. Whether wheelchairs, manual or powered, are considered as medical device? If yes, what is the test requirement?
Both the mechanical and powered wheelchair are classified as devices. It will be a low risk class A devices. And for what are the testing that is required, we have to see the product specific standards, or they are different ISO standard or an ASM standard will be available. So we have to check in the ISO standard website and the IC website whether the product specific performance standard is available or not, and accordingly we have to validate all the parameters, both the functional, performance and safety data accordingly.
Okay. We have question from Mr. Sahu S. Can we sell non-notified devices in the market without manufacturing license before the September 2020 deadline?
So you can able to sell it right now, but the requirements say that you have to do the you should have a login ID from the Sugam portal, and you have to submit two things: an undertaking plus a basic ISO 134 certificate plus a basic information about your devices. Then you can able to sell the product in the market.
We have question from Levelin. Do we have to take in writing from CDSU about the classification of our devices?
No, CDSO will not give you in writing about the classification. It is a manufacturer's responsibility to accurately classify the device. CDSO will not do the classification for you.
Okay, so we have the next question from Levelin again. So she asked, when you mention an active device, does the classification depend if it is a autonomous or user controlled active device?
Yeah, so active devices mean active device means if it is used an external electrical source, a battery source to operate it. So it is irrespective whether it's an autonomous or is a user control. If it is to use an external energy source to operate it, so it will be falling under an active device.
Okay. Next question from Mr. Jayesh. For test license issue for IVD, who is license authority and what are the requirements for it? Is joint inspection will be held for it?
No, for test license, you have to apply to the Sugam portal only. But there will be not any joint inspection. You have to apply in the form, and you have to apply only for test license in the Sugam portal, and you will get it. You have to apply to the CDSCO, the licensing authority, the CDSCO only.
Great. I think we have answered all the questions in the chat box. There are no any questions. And if there are any other questions, you can raise your hands as well, and we can just directly, unmute you and you can ask your questions. Otherwise, I think we are good to go for the Sugam portal walkthrough. So, do we have any questions, participants? You can just put in a chat box or raise your hands.
So I will be just starting in few minutes. I will just taking a login.
Yeah, sure. So Mr. Riaz will be sharing the contact details of Mr. Siddharth with you, and yeah, you can reach out to him for any other queries or help you require from him, and we'll be sharing the feedback form link with you as well, so that you can fill the form post this webinar and receive the e-certificate for attending this webinar as well. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, Mrs. Siddharth, we can. Okay, so we have question from Mr. Asif.
Okay.
As well. So he asked, one kit contains accessories which are outsourced and some are used for cleaning and covering. So do they have to apply for the entire kit?
No. What's the question? Then just repeat again.
Yeah, so he's asking, so the kit contains the accessories which are outsourced and used as a cleaning purpose and the covering of that. So do they have to apply for the whole kit?
You have to apply for the whole kit. Because you cannot apply individually. If your device in a kit, you can get the manufacturing license for the entire kit also.
Okay. Okay. And we have a question from Jayesh. For the sale of IVD, wholesale license is required?
If you are a manufacturer or if you are just a trader, so wholesale drug license is required only for a trader. If you are a manufacturer, you have a manufacturing license. So you don't need to have a separate wholesale license. So if you are a trader or a distributor, in that case only you will be requiring a wholesale license.
Okay, great. Thank you, Jayesh. And I think, yeah, we can go to the portal walkthrough now.
Yeah, I will just give me 2 minutes. I will just share.
Okay, sure. So in the meantime, I'm also sharing the feedback form for the link. So yeah, Shreyans, we'll be sharing the presentation with you as well as the link to the YouTube recording of this session as well.
So now you screen. Are you able to see the screen?
Yes, it's visible.
So
If it is not able to
once
see,
you
can
do
put
the
in chat
login,
box.
So once you do the login in the Sugam portal, you can just see that there are different tabs will be there. Submit application, save draft application, submitted application. You can see if they have approved. If CDSU have approved your application, you can see another approved application part. If they have rejected your application, you can also see they have rejected it. Apply post approval if you are doing any change. Once you have got the approval, what are the requirements? Then you also apply for the post approval requirements. If you want to withdraw your application, there is also one section over there. Also section of cancel applications, query raise, respond. In many of cases, CDSU they will issue you some of the queries respect to the documents which you have submitted. So then we have to also respond to that queries. So through this tab only we are doing it. Suspended applications. Now you can see that recently CDSU they have added 2 new tabs. Submitted non-regulatory devices. It means that all the non-regulated medical devices, they can also have to submit the documents through the Sugam portal. Here you can see submitted non-regulatory devices. You are seeing it. It's on the purple color. Submitted non-regulatory devices information. So now I will be select submitted non-regulatory devices. So now here you can see that serial number, file number, device, certificates section is showing it. Now we have to go on the menu section. On the menu section, add non-regulatory device, add device detail. So here you can just see. They are asking upload undertaking documents, upload valid ISO certificate and a category. So I will upload an undertaking. Yes, you can see it's uploaded. Now I will be uploading a valid ISO certificate. Now you have to see what is your category. It's a medical devices or it's an in vitro device, in vitro diagnostic device. I will see it is a medical device. I will then say, okay. This is a very important. You cannot further change the document. So are you sure you want to submit these details? As after this, you won't be able to modify this detail. So make sure that the things which you are uploading in this is accurate. Henceforth, you are not able to change it. I will select OK. Once I have done the OK, now you can see select purpose. Whether it's import or for the manufacturer, I will say it's import. You have to write the generic name of devices. I will say it is a catheter. If you have any brand name, suppose I keep the brand name of the device is Gen. What is the medical device category you have to see? Whether you are applying a group, single or system. So it's a single device. Notify category or device. You have to see, you have to check whether it is used in the anesthesiology, personal, ophthalmic. You have to just classify where it is used. So I will say that this device, my devices will going to use in nephrology and renal care. Fine. Then class of device, whether it's a class A, B, C or D. I will say it's a class B device. So then you have to provide the device dimensions over here. I will provide 12 French, 14 French only. You have to further see whether it's a sterilized or non-sterilized or whether it's both. I will say it's a sterilized device. Material of construction, I have to see what is the material of construction. I will say it is a silicon. What is shelf life? Shelf life, I will say it is a 24 months. Storage conditions, ambient, room condition. Package type, PAVEC package. Intended use, dialysis of blood. Dialysis. I'm not just writing in depth. Depending upon the data which we have, we can able to write a complete, good detailed description over there. If there's any accessory or component is involved. So I got a question that I have implantable devices, but we have such an accessories over here. So here you can write all the accessories of the device over here. And if you have different models, categories, you can write a different model and categories also over here. And then whether a device contain a coated with drug or polymer, if it's yes, you can say yes. If no, it's a no. Then you can save and continue. Save and continue. So here you can see that one box has came catheter, gen, single, nephrology and renal class B. So now you can go and edit it also. If you want to do further updation, you can do the updation of the requirement also. You can update the information also. So this type of basic informations you have to put into it. And then after this, the pages will once this will get over, then further the device master file and site master file which we have prepared, we have to upload over here. Since it's a currently draft version, that's why we cannot able to show you the next page over here right now. Are you able to see the slides right now or no?
Yes, we can see the slides.
So you are just seeing that what are the applicable MD forms, what are the document requirements, and I have also shown you to what are the timelines and walk through the Sugam portal. So this is how you can able to register your devices in the Sugam portal. So if you have any questions, anything, you can also write to me, or you can also get in touch with Mr. Gaurav. So he can also communicate to me. If you or your team has any doubt, any clarification you need to respect to your classification or your device, or you want to get your product get registered in the Sugam portal.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
So any questions from the participants and anything, do let me know.
Yes, sure. So we still have some questions left in the chat box. So just during the presentation. So yeah, let's take them. So this is a question from Sahu S. He asked, if I'm a trader and I have a wholesale license and now I want to sell a new medical device, do I need any amendment in my wholesale license?
No, yeah, if you are a trader and distributor, you need to have a wholesale drug license.
Okay. We have a question from Suresh. Is non-regulated same as non-notified? What are the contents of an undertaking document?
The content of the undertaking is very simple, that we have to say that our devices is right now not regulated, but as per the gadget notification released on 11 February, our device is falling under class A. So we are hereby voluntarily apply for the manufacturing license. So this type of undertaking we have to give it over there.
Perfect. We have question from Vikas Kulkarni. Is there any user manual for this non-registered device?
For non-regulated device, no. What user manual is this? Is user manual with respect to device registration or what? Because user manual will be this type of use which can be referred by the end user.
Right. We have next question from Mr. Suresh. Accessories of kit need not be solely manufactured by us, right? And kit can have other imported materials, so we apply for the entire kit manufacturing. Okay, sure. Yeah, thank you so much for informing.
Yeah, we have to apply for the entire kit manufacturing.
So
So the other component will be then accessories of your product. So the main, like if you are making any ELISA kit, so all the solution or the detection will be the main thing, and other thing will be your accessories, which will be going to support to your main kit or main IVD.
okay. And we have question from Jayashree. So she asks, we have a platform which contain wearable when manufactured by us and other outsourced devices like Nomenter, etc. In this case, we have to apply for both manufacturing and distributor license. So do they have to apply for both in that case?
No, I would like to know that is the monitor which they are have outsourced. They want to go for the manufacturing for that also. They have to. You are not manufacturing the monitor, right?
So I'm unmuting you, Ms. Yashi, so you can share more details on that. Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
So yes, so we have manufacturing a wearable that measures 4 parameters, and other third-party devices like BP monitor, glucometer, and all we are integrating to our mobile app.
Right, understand. So here my question is that for the other other devices, you want to show them that that you have manufactured them, that, or how you would like to show them?
No, we are showing it as third-party devices. That means we are we are showing the company name itself.
Okay, so then to get the distributor license for that separately, you can having a manufacturing license will suffice your problem right now.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Jayashree. So we have question from Mr. Sahu. What is the difference between non-regulated and non-notified devices?
There is no difference. It's the same thing. Non-regulated and non-notified is the same thing.
Okay. We have question from Mr. Jayesh. For impact of IVD kits used in COVID-19, what is current procedure? Is validation of kit is required? How many batches used for validation, and during the validation could we sell the kit?
Yeah, as per the ICMR guidelines, for all the IVD kit which is going to be used for the COVID, they have to pass from the two. They have to pass from the National Institute of Virology, Pune, and they also have to pass it from the clinical validations. So yeah, you have to do the kit should be passed from National Institute of Biology, and clinical validation or performance validation you have to do it. How many number of batches? It totally depends upon the number of patients or number of requirements we can do. You can conduct on around 100 samples. You can able to conduct 100 to 120 samples. You can do this type of validations. And during validation, could we sold the kit? No. During the validation, you cannot able to sold these kits. you can able to solve the kits only when you get the approval from the ICMR, and ICMR can only give you the approvals once you test your kit will get tested from the National Institute of Biology and you have successfully done the performance validation studies.
Perfect. Yeah. So we have question from Mr. Asif Ahmed. Do we need loan licensing for accessories?
Loan license to?
For accessories.
No, it's not necessary to get the loan license for accessories. You can show them as an outsource.
Okay. We have question from Mr. Riaz Rafiq. Are disinfect cabins are considered as medical device? If yes, what?
No, they are not the devices.
Okay, so no testing requirement is for them. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. I think we have covered most of the questions. Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Siddharth, for the session. We have been receiving a lot of praise for the session, the information you have covered, and how depth you have kept. So thank you so much, Siddharth. And I think, yeah, we'll be doing much more sessions. I mean, as we are planning for a series of webinar on this medical regulatory sessions. So thank you, everyone. Thank you.